Climate change affects us all, but not equally. It depends on where you live in and who you are. For example, the vulnerable community on the coastal area in Bangladesh could be much more vulnerable than many other communities around the world. But to build their resilience, make adaptation work, we have to understand certain aspects of community. What do they value? What are the challenges they face? Why conflict arises in a community? And what do we mean by community inclusivity? Let us focus on community's values. Community values are built by the beliefs, norms, mutual respect they have within themselves, the networks they maintain, relationship they have with the agencies, the common purpose they actually work towards, and the common challenge they actually fight together. But the values among the communities differ because those values are expressed differently by different communities. It depends on the lived experience they have, their own realities and challenges, and all these actually shape the values a particular community have. Also, it is important to identify community-specific challenges. Let us take climate change as an example. In a part of the country of Bangladesh, drought is a very serious problem. In other places, flood might be too much water, too less water. But there are certain communities who faces multi-hazards, short-term and long-term challenges. Sometimes those challenges are actually secondary challenge because they tried to overcome a particular challenge with solutions, but those solutions didn't work. That's why we need to understand both the values of the communities as well as the challenges they face. That correlation and that connection is so important. But despite having common values, conflict arises within a community. But we need to understand and we need to identify those conflicts. Those might arise because the evolving values they have, the increasing demands because of the growth of the population or change in the social economic status. Newer challenges might be there, economic, environmental, social. Resource constraints are also another issue because they get depleted all the time. Weak governance, power imbalance among the stakeholders are other issues which actually creating and nurturing those conflicts. Talking about weak governance, we also need to remember that there are people who have got vested interest in a particular society, especially when the community is so vulnerable. They can't actually fight for their rights. Corruption is another issue we have to be considering because it is really, really dominating many of our societies. And of course, lack of respect among the stakeholders is one of the reasons why we cannot build consensus during conflict resolution. But there are different ways we can resolve our conflicts. If we understand different perspectives, what we are bringing in and why we are suggesting certain solutions, we have to understand the power dynamics among the stakeholders and how to bring balance to that. We need to define a common purpose. And of course, we can always revisit the journey we have been through together. That can also inspire us and come to a consensus. But we can always have all these if we can follow the principle of community inclusivity. What does it mean actually? It means that we need to engage all the representative from all the section of a society. We need to make their concerns heard and their expectation realized. There are different ways to define inclusivity. I can share with you 7 aspects of inclusivity. One is representation, being there, being represented. But it doesn't make any sense unless you participate actively. That brings the second one. The third dimension is we need to build the capacities as well as skills of the community to make real change or contribute effectively. The fourth one is accessibility of resources, of services, of technologies. That is very crucial. The fifth dimension is financial resources to maintain exclusivity, to facilitate the processes. The sixth dimension of inclusivity would be knowledge system. It is not only, we are not talking about the local knowledge only, but knowledge that is generated through interaction between the community and the external stakeholders. We need to appreciate that knowledge generation and how to mobilize that knowledge for impact. That is also quite important. And finally, innovation. We need to harness all the opportunities of being innovative because our system changes, our surrounding changes, and our expectation changes. Finally, why inclusivity is so important? Because if we really want to make an action accepted by wider community, we need to bring them in. We need to appreciate that there are certain aspects of trade-off whenever we work, whenever we design a project. To make those understood, we have to bring the community in, all the members. Without inclusivity, benefit sharing from a project will not happen. And finally, to make our actions sustainable and make it mainstreamed in wider context, we have to make community inclusivity as one of the key aspects of our interventions. Thank you.